Hello everyone, my name is Sanket Nedamani. This video is to talk about my portfolio project, and through it I'd like to share my design process, showcase tools I used, the challenges I faced and the decisions I had to take. So a bit of a heads up, this is not a full gameplay video. I finished my masters in game development at Abertay University in Scotland and have had 6 years of professional experience at Ubisoft as well as Sumo Digital with 2 published games. Now, I'd like to talk about how I approach a project, and the first thing is to understand my limitations. It allows me to look at full scope of things I could do in a project. Unlike in studio projects where you have a lot of technical experts who will help you figure out and resolve a problem, here I couldn't rely on anyone. Secondly, I wanted to get to level design as quickly as possible. And as far as the expectations for this project go, I wanted to showcase my level design, may it be grey boxing, landscaping, documentation, and the process itself. I also wanted to focus on blueprints, scripted events, systems, and use of geometry using splines. Having examined my limitations and expectations from the project, I decided to go with a stealth gameplay. I like to encourage players to resolve obstacles via exploration and to gain access to new part of the areas that they initially could not. Let's look at my process of designing and how I approach a level with a story. First in line is brainstorming. The player begins as an ambitious spy contracted by the bourgeoisie faction to earn fame and fortune. Objectives include sabotaging the transport vehicle and destroying the cargo by planting a missile guidance beacon and disabling the signal jammers to allow the missiles to hit the target. Next comes the research. To infiltrate an enemy stronghold, I found the Omani style of architecture for their simplicity yet symbolized strength and felt it brought a bit of mystery for making asymmetrical structures. For the mound and mines, I had to investigate how they were built and what elements are found within the structure where the player will traverse through and find the point of entry into the fort. This did not feel absurd as forts are known to have hidden entrances and paths, so a blend of both structure felt natural. Next in line is everybody's favorite topic to read thoroughly, documentation. In the first order of business are maps. I used Miro to show a basic outline of locations and in what order they are introduced to the players. By avoiding going way too much into details of what elements are located where, cause in 3D spaces things don't usually pan out the way you hope for. Here, the player starts from the lake, then through the mines, enters the fort walls, and once the player unlocks the security doors, a lot of area becomes accessible. In gameplay beats, I made this to get a general sense of pacing on what players are doing throughout the map and what order of things will player be achieving objective. Now you must have noticed my map does not have a critical path directly on it. I chose so for the sake of readability. Instead, I made a flowchart combining it with a beat map and what player is likely to find in each room. Doing so gives me a quick and clear idea of pacing and enemy distribution. You can see it needs tweaking, so I will be making improvements in them in future. Lastly, the action sheet. Here I mention what my level intentions are in each section, and if I'm ever to tweak anything in future, I can refer back to my original work and decide if I want to make changes as per the original intention or make changes for a better outcome. So this acts as a record keeping system. Say if I decide to come back to this level after some time and don't remember why I did what I did. And finally, the biggest chunk of my video of what I actually worked on in UE. First, I created an outline of a map with mountains and wanted a subtropical land, so I experimented with the brushes and layers and how these layers transition between themselves. Next, I worked on a space where I'll be adding a cinematic of the player arriving via water body to the shore where the gameplay begins. Then I made a plane marked in red where the gameplay for Act 1 takes place. I started with grey boxing the shore and created a mound using BSPs which will provide entry into the mines, making the path super obvious to know where to proceed and simultaneously get used to the controls. In the mines underground, I wanted the player to feel claustrophobic and uneasy, so I decided to have low visibility by collapsing the tunnel entrance and curved them too to block clear vision of the end goal. I added a small waterfall with a battered bridge as an easy platforming challenge to pile on to the chaos. To counterbalance the difficulty, I used lighting and tram tracks to guide the player in which general direction they will need to proceed. When players deal with first enemy with the guns, I have provided lots of cover and health pack to overcome combat challenge. As a bonus for exploration and overcoming bridge obstacles, I reward players with a collectible. As shown in the video for the curved tunnel and tram tracks, I used a spline blueprint that I had created. This is a great tool as I can add any static asset and make the space feel more natural for its curvy nature. I can clamp the spline points as needed in case I need a sharp edge. This allows me to edit complex structure in real time with ease. It can also manipulate landscape when building roads and railways. Talking about landscape manipulation, I cut out a hole into it, allowing players to go into the tunnel and again at the exit to get out. Next, I grey boxed the fort that was divided into 4 floors, which is mostly squarish but does not follow a symmetrical structure, needing player to explore. Players are provided with multiple entry points into many uniquely and easily recognizable rooms as they explore and unlock newer areas, encouraging different approaches adapt to their own playstyle where even verticality plays a part, thus providing a sense of progress within the same structure. However, to make sure player does not feel lost in the level, huge reference points like towers and statues are provided. But in case of puzzle doors and exploring puzzle pieces, I have used consistent visual references to act as a hint and quick recognition tool to let players know what they are dealing with. You can also see my effort put into guiding or trying to grab players' attention towards a particular object, or when they try to interact or select an object. I have provided players with visual feedback to make sure they don't walk away confused. A similar instance in the puzzle solving section where selected discs or when they are correctly aligned, player receives feedback for both actions. In this puzzle BP, it deals with checking if I have all the puzzle pieces with me when interacting. If successful, camera zooms in and allows player to select and align discs, and on success will open up for the player to proceed ahead. I have also set up scripted events like collapsing tunnel entrance and providing a forewarning to the player of what happens when stepping on the bridge plate, and finally, the passage of time itself. I have also worked on complex dynamic objective menu that players can refer to anytime to keep track of their progress. This deals with trigger boxes, interactions, or actions taken by the player. The blueprint communicates with many other blueprints via casting or function calls. Now, let's look at an instance where players will need to figure out a way into the armory to achieve one of their objectives. Firstly, during exploration, players will come across a note addressing the armory key being inside the barracks. Players will then immediately encounter the barracks room, but the door can only be opened from the other side. There is another way into the room via a vent, however, it's out of player's reach. Third, on exploration, the player will come across a push-pull cart locked by a security door. Lastly, players will gain access to all security doors once the access button is pressed in the security room, thus allowing players to push cart they had found previously under the vent and make their way into the barracks and get to the armory keys. Moving on, I'd like to showcase a dynamic camera system that I had created where players can access enemy cameras to gather intel. However, if the cameras were previously destroyed by the player for any reason, those cameras will not be accessible anymore. And just before we wrap up, I'd like to show the work done in my level design blueprint for level specific events and especially for loading and unloading sub-levels for the sake of efficiency. Lastly, my goal is to eventually become a principal level designer, so I will keep working towards it irrespective of my job status. I do, however, have an affinity towards all studios but mobile, unless it's like Monument Valley or To the Moon type of game. The reason why I love being a level designer is because of the limited central role LDs get to play, where I meet people of different skill set to get their stuff working in my level, which in turn ends up allowing me to learn from them. So I never feel this work is boring or I'm at the end of my learning curve, and LD always keeps things very interesting. Anyways, if you liked what you saw, especially my future hiring studios, I invite you to get to know me because I sure as hell am excited to work with you. Cheers!